So, welcome back for our final session from today's broadcast here in Baku at COP29. Today we've invited three great guests for a conversation on positive tipping points, stories on energy and transport, but also within the studio as well. Not only Katarina do we have here, but Anita Soina, environmental warrior and founder of the SpiceWarriors. And we'd also like to bring in from our studios in Stockholm in Sweden, David and Christina. Yes, they're with us. Hi there.
Hi there.
Hi. And you got any reflections on today's broadcast?
Yes, we do. I really like the Potsdamer Institute and the tipping points. And of course, a warmer climate will give us more storms. In conclusion with that, our economy needs a stable climate. Okay. And the exponential solutions session talked on that. And for that to happen, we need much more coordination, which we don't have today. So, and to accelerate the actions that we actually do. There are only 60 months to 2030. That's my reflection. What's your reflection, Dave?
My reflection is how positive Achim Steiner of UNDP was in your talk with him, Nick. More in general, he brought a very positive attitude to your conversation, and he mentioned the enormous market of renewable energy and the energy infrastructure, and put that in relation to the finance goals and the trillions of dollars that are being discussed. My view is on
and
that is that
David, he also hammered home that the developing countries aren't sitting back and waiting for handouts from the developed countries. No. They're getting on with and spending their own taxpayers' money on actually moving the green economy forward. Sorry to interrupt. I think it was so positive and so important, you know.
That's very positive, and that's a perfect segue to what I was getting at, actually, because I do believe that we have not enough confidence we don't have enough confidence as a global community in the transition. But maybe that goes mostly for the Western or developed world. Maybe in the developing world, they have more confidence and they are really making ready to leapfrog into the new renewables economy. But when we get the whole global community, we will really have that big exponential push towards change. Just need to get rid of oil and fossils and really have confidence in the transition. It will be unstoppable.
So, thanks a lot, guys. Lots of love to Stockholm. And, back to you, Katarina.
Well, I'm curious to your reflections of the day, Anita Soina. You are a founder of SpiceWarriors, and you're a global youth leader in your continent, really, not just in your country of Kenya. So, what have you picked up during the day?
So, I attended sessions that were talking about just transition. And if you look at, for example, Kenya, 94% of our electric grid is renewables. So that means we are okay. And also we are good to say that. And also looking at the African continent, which is so rich in solar, wind, and all that. But then the challenge that comes in is the infrastructure bit of it. And also the issue of, as a continent, when we talk about the coal and the fossil fuels that we have, it means also our development is affected. So I attended a meeting where there was a very serious debate on fast phase in, fast phase out, and so last phase in, last phase out, which was very interesting to hear. Yeah.
So, what did you pick up? Anything else during the day? You've been networking a lot. That's one of your specialities, that you get to talk to a lot of people, especially youth. I guess they connect with you very well in your position.
Yeah, I was able to interact with a group of climate communicators who are using different platforms, and myself as a digital influencer, and looking at how can we leverage on a language that appeals to people, content that is tailored to different communities and different groups, so they are able to understand the issues, because sometimes we use general language to talk about climate issues. And I was also at the Indigenous Peoples Pavilion with my fellow Maasai people, and it was interesting to see that we have most of them at COP this year as compared to last year, and most of them are showcasing because and COP is not just about the negotiations and the serious part of it. It's also about being able to connect our work to possible support from different people, showcasing what we do back at home, because that is what really matters the most, what we do back at home.
Thank you for highlighting this, Anita. Really, this is important. It's not only about the negotiations in the big plenary sessions. Thank you. So let's move on. It's my great pleasure now to introduce some new guests here in the studio. Next to me here is Karin Svensson. You are Chief Sustainability Officer at Volvo Group. Welcome back. You were here the other day too. It's always a pleasure to interview you. So, and also Annika Ramsköld, Chief Sustainability Officer at Vattenfall AB. And I think we might be joined by another guest shortly. But let's start with you, Karin. How are we doing on electrifying heavy transport? I mean, can you share some of the positive examples from the Volvo Group, please?
I think we are coming there. I think the positive thing is that the solutions are there. If we look upon our portfolio, we have battery electric trucks, buses, construction equipment, machines available. And we know that they are working. We are seeing a steady progress in the sales. Maybe not as quick as we were hoping for, but we are seeing that we're getting there at least. So,
thank you, Karin. I know you have a question for Annika.
Yes, indeed, I do, Annika. You work for Vattenfall. Actually, I take my energy in Berlin from Vattenfall.
That's great to know.
I remember once saying to one of your colleagues on one of the shows we had, can you promise me you're going to decarbonize your supply? Okay, I'll stay with you for another 5 years. So anyway, no, it's one of Europe's largest producers and retailers of electricity and heat. What are some of the uplifting examples within your company and your sector?
Well, I think, first of all, if we look how we have changed our portfolio when it comes to the fuels and sources that we use for both electricity and heat, we have since 2017 reduced our carbon emissions by 69%, by really shifting the portfolio very clearly. So I think that in itself, to completely shut down all the coal plants and replace a lot of the gas and then grow tremendously in wind and solar, battery, also making the existing assets much more efficient, like the nuclear plants and the hydro plants. So I think those are some very good examples.
What's your overall goal? What's your overall target?
Our overall target is, of course, to be net zero by 2040, and we have a 1.5 degree science-based target for 2030.
Right.
And our overall strategy is to enable fossil freedom that drives society forward. So it's about really engaging throughout the value chain. So we have, if we want to talk about success stories, I think it's also about how we not only provide the green electrons and hydrogen, but how we also bring solutions that are fossil-free transport and fossil-free materials to the market through partnerships, like we've had with Volvo Cars earlier to bring the first plug-in hybrids there. We have the partnership with SSAB and LKAB to produce the fossil-free steel via hybrid and so forth. So we go further into the value chain, and then of course also on the demand side.
Indeed.
Yeah. What are your impressions? Or no, I think it's over to you actually, Katarina. Can you go back to? Oh no, we're actually waiting for Amy.
I'm waiting for Amy.
So
Is
creating a little
Amy
bit of
joining
doubt
us?
in our
No.
script here. Maybe we can have a little bit.
Amy's not joining us right now, so
Okay.
I don't know. She's
Let's
not.
go back to some other issues.
Yes,
then.
please do.
Let's carry on with this. So, what about? I mean, this is a conference of many countries, right? And not just European ones, etc. Although I must say, if you look at a map of the world right now in terms of who's doing best on emission reductions, it looks like it's Europe, right? And a few other lights in different parts of the world. But Europe is really showing a great sense of leadership right now, and we hope, of course, that another large country will also continue to show leadership, but we don't know quite yet what is going to happen there. But do you get a sense from being in these corridors and that there is a buzz about action, not just within the European context, but also from other countries, from people you talk to inside events or things like that? Are you feeling more confident than you were maybe a few weeks ago after certain elections in certain places? Yeah.
I would definitely say so.
That was a leading question, but I like it.
Oh, yeah.
No, but I would definitely say so. I've been talking to a lot of Indian companies, and there I see great progress. And of course, we've seen statistics like 60% of the renewable capacity is built in China. So of course, things are happening. And I think, like you said, we might be in the forefront in Europe, but if we talk about speed, I would say then we're not in the forefront, because I think the speed comes definitely from a lot of other continents and countries where I'm positively surprised, I have to say.
Yeah. Yeah.
I agree with Annika. I think it's absolutely so that we see that there are ambitions in many parts of the world. What I think is important to remember is that we might not have one solution that can fit everyone. So in the case of decarbonizing transportation, I think we need to think about that there could be different solutions. So we have this three-pronged approach where we talk about battery electric, fuel cell electric, but we also think that there is actually room for the internal combustion engine still, but then filled with something else than with
not the fossil fuels.
Yeah, with like hydrogen or e-fuels or something like that. And I think that gives us a great possibility to actually decarbonize different transport applications and also different markets and regions, because this will be different for different parts of the world.
It makes sense when you come to think of it. It is very varied, the sources of energy, and also, of course, the demands in different sectors.
And if I can just add, I think transportation and also energy, that's something that everyone needs in every part of the world. So we need to find solutions that fits for that specific region.
So Karin and Annika, and I'm turning to you first, Annika, what needs to happen in terms of policy to speed up this energy transition? I mean, we are getting impatient, some of us, correct? Yes.
Absolutely. No, but I think, again, coming back, I think why everyone keeps saying it, but we do need a price on carbon throughout the world, because right now it's only like 76% is outside of having a carbon price. So carbon pricing is, of course, very important. We also talk a lot about permitting. There I see great progress in Europe, but then it's different again between different countries, how well it's defined. So we need permitting to move forward faster.
For instance, in the offshore wind sector.
Renewable
like
energy,
that, yes, exactly. But then I think one thing that is sometimes not really talked as much about as it need to be is public procurement. The demand push that public procurement really creates, because it's enormous amounts of money that goes into public procurement. So if they also jump on the train and put demands like we as a private business do, then we would definitely have the demand push and also deploy these solutions quicker. But I think in general we need also to find the de-risking mechanisms. If we take for us, we want to build a lot of new renewable capacity, and we need to make the investment decisions way ahead of knowing if the customer is out there. There are some customers that really are in the forefront, and with those we can form public, so PPA, so now I'm getting very tired.
Public-private partnerships.
Exactly. Thank you.
Too much work today at the COP. I think we're all in the same place, right?
and that we have with, for instance, Volvo on onshore wind, but we also have it with BASF and others. So there you have a bit of security. But in a way, we also take a bet, because now I'm very confident that you will be there also for many years. But what if they default, and could we find some kind of mechanisms with credit facilities in the background from certain countries, for instance? So there are a number of things that still needs to be there and a lot of it is about de-risking. And de-risking can be policies or finances
indeed
or
it
whatever.
can be, for sure. So coming back to the what you said just now, could you share a good example of the procurement procedure that has been very strong and helpful in the energy sector? Do you have any examples to share there? Because it is a powerful tool.
It is, and I think if I take an example in Netherlands, they are fairly good at sort of setting requirements when they do tendering for wind farms, for instance, where they weigh in a much more clearer way both social and environmental elements. So there you need to prove yourself in that, and then that is part of the evaluation process. And I think this is then it's very powerful, and we're happy because we are in the forefront on that, and that also helps us to be able to continue and push for those pieces. But still, having that said, we say when we want to move even further into getting access to fossil-free steel and to get that into the tender, then we still do not really know. We have examples right now where we have condition agreements even before we have a FID, so the final investment decision. And there we have secured low emission steel. But then the question is towards the end, both if the supplier can actually use it and what the price comes up to in the very end. But so there is I think in this area there are so many elements that need to fall into place at the same time.
And that's one of the reasons we're here, right? To meet and discuss these things. So Karin, what would you like to share on this topic here?
With regards to policies, I fully agree with Annika that we do need more to push on the demand side. Today we have lots of regulation that will on the supply side to say that we need to have a certain level of zero emission vehicles at a certain point, but we also need to have customers demanding these solutions, and of course we would like to see more of that the cost for driving an electric truck, as an example, must come on par with driving a diesel truck. Today you could say it's far too cheap to drive a diesel truck compared to an electric truck, which makes it difficult for our customers. Also, I think public procurement is another very powerful tool to create a market, and we see good examples, of course, on the bus side where this has been done for quite a long time. You know, we have been selling electric buses for more than 10 years. That works perfectly fine. We also see good examples for construction equipment, for example, in Stockholm, where we actually can prove that it's not only beneficial from a climate perspective, but it's increasing productivity, it's better for air quality, it's better for the operator, it's less noise, vibrations, and it doesn't have to come at a higher cost either. So policies and in that area, I think, is really important.
Can I just jump in here? Because I'd love to ask this question, but you know, one thing that I've noticed in the last, and I've seen it before, but it seems to have come back a little bit, it's this kind of disinformation about electric vehicles and disinformation about renewable energy popping up again, and not just popping up in Europe or USA, but popping up in Africa as well. Do you, can your companies do something about that? Because, you know, it really is unbelievable some of the things that are said about, I mean, there's still articles about range anxiety, as if in an electric vehicle you only go 20 miles and you're going to be stuck, you know, rather than we know how it's going. Or wind farms are killing masses of birds, and it's always a picture of an eagle on the ground, you know. Or that, there are many different examples of where this seems to be coming back, and I don't know why it's coming back. I can guess, but I don't know for sure.
But your question is if we can do something about it, and I think we are, as much as possible. So if we take all those myths related to wind farms, there we do a lot of collaboration with the academia, and we do a lot of measurements. So it's about creating facts that are then proving that it's not true. So I think that's one way, but it won't help that we are telling the story. We need to have others telling the story.
Exactly.
But I think a lot to base it on facts and science is most likely the best way forward.
I think with trucks and cars, electric trucks and cars, it's the old image of something on fire, as if the battery caught fire. And quite frankly, I'd probably rather be in an accident in an electric truck than one that's actually full of petroleum, right? I mean, It's these kinds of mythologies which are just percolating around, and they're spreading to different countries as well. I don't know where it comes from.
And I think in the case of commercial vehicles, the first thing is for people, policymakers, others to understand that they're actually there and they are around and they work, so that it's not only do I dare, how long can I drive? They might not even know that they exist.
Yeah.
But today, you know, we have, next year we will launch a truck with a range of 600 kilometers.
Wow.
So it's not a matter of if we can do this, it's just when we do it. So I think that's the first thing.
But may I build on, because I think
Yes.
about the myths, I think there it's something that we all can do together. It's the general acceptance of the fact that we now we need to build a lot of renewable capacity and grid. That will be visible. There is no doubt about that. So it means that we need acceptance of, in order for us to do the transition, it will be noticed. And I think we've all talked about NIMBYs, or not in my backyard.
Yes.
Yeah.
However, I think we've moved into banana. Build absolutely nothing anywhere near anyone.
Oh,
And
dear.
that's
Banana.
That's
bananas.
a new
That's
one.
a new one. That is bananas.
That is bananas. And I think here each and every one of us has a role to play. And again, it doesn't help if it's the utilities and the energy companies that say that you need to accept it. It's actually those that need to be, if you're an individual consumer or if you're a B2B business that needs this, we all need to talk about it, that it's something we need. And then we need to accept, I really like wind farms and I think it's nice. I wouldn't mind having it close to me. But
they're
I think
beautiful.
that is also something where I think both politicians and others need to
Yes.
talk about it.
Yes.
Well, thank you so much, Annika Ramsköld and Karin Svensson, for joining us here at the final session of today. It's always a delight to share, to listen to you, and keep up the strong work here. Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And let's move on. And now we're joined by two new guests here in the studio. It's Amy Reggers, your Regional Program Specialist, Climate Change and Gender, UN Women. And also we have with us Fithriyyah Iskandar, and you are a medical doctor with climate and health as your expertise. Wonderful to have both of you here. And let's start with you, Fithriyyah. Among many other roles, you're also a member of the UN Women the UN Women 30 for 2030 network. It's a long title. And also Youth Advisory Group at the London School of Hygiene and Tropical Medicine Centre for Climate Change and Planetary Health. So please tell us, how is the planetary crisis affecting our health already, especially for young people?
Thank you so much. So I think everyone's already agree how current climate crisis impacting everyone's health, particularly the young children, youth, and everyone, women. And in this case, I want to touch upon how it really impacting within the mentally and then physically state of the young people. For now, I often hear from my colleague, they say they're really anxiety for their future, and this now we call it like the climate anxiety. So that's definitely one of the truly like real impact how the climate change really affecting the mental state of the young people. And then the second, maybe in the more technical situations and on the how this kind of climate crisis impacting the promoting the disaster, like climate-induced disasters, which force women, young people to migrate or relocate, which in this situation they will not provide it with a good hygiene and sanitation accessibility. And in this case also how the young women and the women itself cannot access the good care for their SRHR, for the sexual reproductive health rights also. And the second one, how also the food insecurity impacting the young children, the young women, especially children, which their growth and development really rely on the supply of the agriculture, which like if the food is not there, and then how can they gain nutritious food for their growth and development. And then the last one, I think it's really really evident, especially in the Asia Pacific. I live in Borneo Island, which I just feel like every year it's getting more hotter, and in here we know that the heat related diseases, like the situations on how extreme our weather for now for the hot, and then the heat itself will impact the women and then the young people who maybe unfortunately their economic status are not really good, so they need to work outside. And definitely for in the rural areas, we know how often the farmers also they just ask for the children, for their younger maybe the older daughter to go to the farm, like to help the community, to help their family to grow food and everything. And in these situations, definitely for the pregnant women, young children, they will be affected from the heat, and it will impact their health, especially the growth within the pregnant woman, for the babies, and the growth of the adolescents and young children.
Thank you for pointing this out. It is indeed complex and very alarming.
So Amy, it's great to see you. Thanks for being with us. And so there is apparently a growing amount of data and evidence that underscores the necessity of incorporating gender equality into considerations in just transition policies and initiatives. So can you explain to the audience the importance of doing this, why it's vital?
Yeah, thanks for the question. And I think, the COP28 partnership on gender responsive just transitions and climate action was a really important moment. I think we've got about 82 different member states who have signed up to this partnership. And it really promotes sort of three key issues. One is around meaningful participation of women and girls as part of the just transition. Secondly, an analysis and sort of a real understanding of the links between gender equality and the just transition, and then really trying to ensure that we promote a gender responsive approach to the way in which the transition actually rolls out. And I think, as Fithriyyah was saying, in the region in which we come from, in the Asia Pacific, the just transition is going to be a long process, but something that's really critically needs to sort of be happening now. And when we talk about the role of women in the just transition, I think we really, in our region, we have to separate the formal workforce with the informal workforce. So we have about 32% of women as part of the renewable energy sector right now, and the growth globally is expected to be something like 18 million jobs, right, in the RE sector. Women are most likely to be in low-skilled places in those workplaces. I think less than 5% of women hold top jobs, C-suite board roles, CSO, CEO roles. So there's a lot of scope in terms of the formal workforce to be creating decent jobs for women as part of the just transition. But I really think on the other side of it, on the informal workforce, for example, in the Asia Pacific, you're looking at about 60% of all women work in the informal sector. So how is the just transition really ensuring an inclusive process for these women, and how are we creating equitable benefits and opportunities from the just transition? And I think it's a real challenge when so many gender inequalities underpin that societal fabric. So women's lack of access to land tenure, which means they struggle to access financial services and products to increase their uptake of renewable energy or low carbon technologies. There are a lot of systemic gender inequalities that really we need to be looking at the root causes, so that this sort of social transformation that has to come along with the just transition can really happen.
I suppose the question is, how long do we have to look at it before we can come up with a recipe, as it were, to change it? You know what I mean? Because this has been a challenge for such a long time, hasn't it? I mean, is there a country somewhere that you can point to where you feel at least it's being taken on board? That there should be some proper gender balance in both the formal and informal sectors.
I don't know that I could pinpoint a
okay,
specific country, but then perhaps maybe I can give you some sort of tangible examples of how, and this is something that, particularly with UN Women, we're really trying to ensure that we do leave no one behind. And I think that's where we're trying to, and we have a program, the Empower Women for Climate Resilient Societies program, that really tries to target women in the most vulnerable areas in the Asia Pacific region, so the most climate vulnerable areas. And we're trying to create financial products and services for renewable energy technologies that meet women where they're at. So whether that be no collateral, first loss guarantees, and working with the financial mechanisms and the institutions to understand the requirements. How can, and I think this really goes part and parcel with the just transition and building climate resilience, because these kinds of renewable energy technologies and low carbon tech, they're a vital lifeline for climate resilience in our region.
Because in a place like Rwanda, for example, you've got some women who are the solar sisters. I don't know if you know those.
they're
who do
amazing.
the door-to-door selling. So it can be done.
Absolutely,
If it, with the right
it can be done.
Yeah, sorry, Karin, I'm jumping in here,
That's
but it's
fine.
just
It's absolutely fine. We're like around a campfire here. So Fithriyyah, in terms of all the examples that you pointed out initially, what could we do to mitigate and what are the key steps here that needs to be taken?
Thank you. So I think for now we can say COP29 is one of the key actions that we need to watch together, especially how our world leaders now negotiating to mainstream at least prioritizing the gender and health lens into the climate negotiations. So at the end of the day, we will come up with something like more stronger and more firm into the actions for the climate, which again, for now, we cannot say that climate health is negotiable in this negotiation. It's non-negotiable. So that's why by developing this strong commitment, and then how every government will also commit to develop the climate resilient health system, it's also important to adapt and mitigate all of the impact of the climate change itself. And I understand this will be quite challenging, especially in the global south countries, because again, the economical and then the political situations and then technology and innovations are still there as the barriers. But again, through this COP, this should be an avenue for everyone to help each other and leaving no one behind, as Amy just mentions. And talking about the health and the gender itself, again, centering this lens will be really helpful to advance how we can try to strengthen the climate resilient health system, which also gender sensitive. And I think I also want to highlight how our the Asia Pacific itself, because I was invited to join the two-day multi-stakeholder dialogue on the gender equality and then climate actions, which held by the UN Women, UNFPA, UNEP, and also AERO. And I found very insightful sessions, which I think everyone really agree that health is non-negotiable, but also including the gender also should be like obligations, and then it is non-negotiable. And in this multi-stakeholder dialogue, I think I can also try to read some of our call to actions, which I think this is really important for everyone to understand and then also to know. We urge we need to have an acceleration on the production and the use of intersectional gender and environment data to strengthen the implementation, monitoring, and accountability of climate action. And the second, we also call for the drive just and inclusive transition to advance gender equality and support women's meaningful engagement in climate action, ensuring so their participation will be equitably and lead and benefits from climate resilient economies. And the third one, we must adopt a right-based and gender-responsive approach to adaptation planning and action to ensure co-benefits of achieving both gender equality and sustainable climate solutions. And then the fourth one, we also urgently call for us to scale up the gender-responsive climate finance that is accessible, inclusive, and accountable. And then the last one, we call for to address the critical interlinkages of climate change, sexual and reproductive health, and gender-based balance in climate plans, policies, and programs. So I think these five call to actions are really the same call to action that the feminist fellow also came here to demand our global leaders to include the gender and also the health into the heart of the climate negotiations now. So I hope this can be taken seriously by our world leaders.
Well, thank you very much, Fithriyyah and Amy, for sharing your insights here. This is truly inspiring, and and it's not the climate that needs to be changed, it's the system, right? Or it's interconnected. Yeah. So let's root for your work and keep at it. Thank you so much for joining us here today.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Let's move on.
So today's broadcast is coming to an end. We'll be back again tomorrow with discussions on how to scale solutions to phase out the fossil fuel economy, how to reduce methane emissions from landfills and waste, part of our Buy More Time campaign, and also one-on-one interviews with special guests and much, 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 much more.
Before we finish, let's watch some footage from Youth for Climate Action Initiative. They've been filming and talking to interesting people here around the COP today. So let's watch this.
Hello, here Julian from Luxembourg. We are here with 6 people as youth delegation, presenting you every day with a little wrap up from COP29. So Max, what did we learn today?
First, we were in a plenary session with former US Vice President Al Gore, who after losing the 2000 US election to George W. Bush, pivoted his political career to focus on the dangers of climate change. Vice President Gore presented to us his new initiative, Climate Trace, which compiles detailed data concerning where and when climate emissions come from. This is incredibly important because until now, emissions data were based mostly on proxy calculations.
Hi, I'm Rentzhog, presenting a very special weather report. Across the globe, from top to bottom, drastic changes are happening. If we don't become vigilant and take action, our lives will soon be in great danger. Let me show you the forecast of 2050. Heat waves will affect 94% of children making playing outside in the past. Scorching weather conditions will destroy many crops, eliminating our favorite food, bread. Disasters will affect almost everything we need. Of course, all of this is by a blanket of heat-trapping pollution in the atmosphere that we would like just not put up there. But don't worry, there's still a chance of clear skies. Right now, clear energy systems are moving in from the east to the west, creating tons of cool jobs. And solar prices have dropped lower than oil and gas. It looks like hybrid systems of cups could still move in and protect kids from an avalanche of really bad stuff. We'll keep you posted as we check if adults stop wasting time and fix this totally solvable problem. Because it's not just a weather report to us, it's our future.
Isn't a joke to walk in the woods, without all the smoke. I love to swim, but not in a flood. We can't grow a crop, down in the mud. I want to be cool and get the job done, so we don't get left out to bake in the sun. Let's plant some trees and make some shade. From the ground up, that's how change is made. I wanna be cool, how about you? Together there's not one single thing that we couldn't do. Take care of the earth and each other too. Working together, we've got. So every girl and every boy can live a good, long, healthy life and find some joy. I wanna be cool, how about you? Together there's not one single thing that we couldn't do. Take care of the earth and each other too. Working together, we all can be cool. Leaders, it's time to lead. Listen to your people in need. The whole world is sweating this out. Can't you hear your kids starting to shout? I wanna be cool, how about you? Together there's not one single thing that we couldn't do. Take care of the earth and each other too. Working together, we